Well, ladies and gentlemen, participants in the Vegetable Garden World Cup, pour nos compatriotes francophones, bonjour. C'est la dernière fois que je parlerai en français aujourd'hui, exceptionnellement. Thank you so much for being with us. We are the Landestini team doing a very, very cool training session today for participants of the Vegetable Garden World Cup, teachers, kids all around the world. And in general, we're very happy to do a training on what it is to do a vegetable garden on living soil. In French, as the term and the concept is very much developed here, called maraîchage or le potager sur sol vivant. And we're going to do this with an expert in the matter and someone who's very much pioneering and kind of spearheading that movement, that expertise, Vincent Levavasseur. And we were very happy to be with him today. We have an hour and a half to 2 hours of training today. If you're not available for the whole 2 hours, no need to worry, because Vincent is going to go into a very qualitative discussion presentation, but we're also going to record this session so we can watch it afterwards whenever you want. It'll be on the website or the YouTube channel of Landestini, and we will also send it out. We're doing a Facebook Live, so hello to everyone on Facebook. I don't see you, so if you have questions, I'm going to ask maybe Alexandra to look at the Facebook, or Stéphane. I would like to thank the Landestini team that is working on the Vegetable Garden World Cup. Alexandra, Margot on vacation. Thank you, Stéphane, Cédric, Camille. Thank you, Olivia, and the whole Landestini team for participating in our projects. To remind everyone, we at Landestini are very much dedicated to the health of kids throughout the world, to the health of the planet. And we have developed this program, this contest, this pedagogical tool adventure called the Vegetable Garden World Cup, which we also do at the national level in France, the National French Vegetable Garden Cup, because we believe that it is just as important to know how to produce food as it is to learn how to write, to read, to count. We believe that it is fundamental to know how to produce food, to know where food comes from, so that we eat healthy and we eat sustainable. And in order to do that, we believe that putting hands into the soil in a concrete, in a hands-on way is the best way to learn. So we're very, very happy that this year we have more than 150 schools around the world in more than 26 countries and on all continents. It's very much a pleasure for us. Thank you to those of you who are tuning in to watch this and participate from far away. We are in France, but we're all over France. I think Vincent is in the northwest. We're in the center of France. Some of us are in the Paris region. Some of us are in the south near Toulouse. So it is not about where you are. It is not about where you come from. And it is not about what you do in life. This is about connecting to something very essential, which is the life in the soil, the life in our bodies, and how the fact that what we have in our plate is an entryway to be committed both to our health and to biodiversity and the planet. Today, Vincent is going to talk with us for a while. And Vincent, I'm going to say a few words and he'll complete his presentation because he does a lot of things. He's a farmer. He's a maraîcher, a vegetable garden, or rather a vegetable producer. He is a expert on farming, on sustainable farming at large. And he's especially an expert on what it is to farm on living soil. He is the president of an organization called Maraîchage sur sol vivant, vegetable farming or vegetal farming on living soil. He also was very involved in the creation of a movement that's more broad than the organization called Agriculture du Vivant, farming with the living. If I translate in a not perfect way, obviously, but it is a movement that's gathered a lot of professional stakeholders, associations, experts. And he works on a lot of different projects at the French, the European level, has both his hands in the soil to produce himself, but also to produce expertise and discourse influence on these issues. And that is why we thank him, because it is a society service, a service to society, to try and promote this kind of farming and to understand what is in the soil so that we do things as well as we can with regards to producing food and getting it into our plate. I very much enjoy learning about the living soil expertise, and they've done another service. They've created an organization called Terre Production. If I translate it, that's earthworm production, but maybe there's another way for you to say it in English, but it is a training platform, a training organization for farmers that trains thousands of farmers since its creation, both online and on the ground, as we say, in projects with farmers to help farmers adapt their farming techniques and learn about producing food in the most harmonious way with what is the life in the soil. Terre Production. Please go look at their website. They have tens of videos, very qualitative. They're not shorts. They have short versions, but they also have very long versions. But the farmers participate in great numbers. Vincent, thank you so much for doing this training with us today. I want to make sure in a few minutes that you're able to share your screen because you have some slides in English. So let's just make sure we get that right. But in the meantime, introduce yourself and be most welcome onto our Landestini project here.
Yes, thank you very much for this introduction. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the full presentation and this beautiful project with this vegetable gardening cup, which I found really fantastic to make highlights about the link between with our life, with our product, with all the materials we have around us with nature, to make a new link, a strong link with nature, and to work first with children. So it's really great to do this work. So thank you very much. As you say, I have a particularity to create a farm, which is the first farm in France and maybe in the world, I don't know, who have made a transition between a grassland and a vegetable production without any tillage. And I will explain it, and I will explain also a lot of really concrete things about how to produce yourself by your garden, your own garden, all the vegetables you want, based on based on natural principles. And I will present it in introduction, and also how to concretely do that. So I will make a brief history about what is living soil, what are the fundamentals, how to prepare your soil, how concretely sow and plant vegetables, and also perennials, and then how to manage weed and pests, and then we will make a lot of photo to see how it's look. Living soil vegetable gardening. So before starting, what does it change if I produce with nature, if I produce with living soil, with really heavy living soil? What we can see as advantages is to suppress tillage operation, to suppress a lot of weeding operation, to do not more fertilize with chemicals, to have a few pests, to be really eco-friendly, to regenerate also your soil, to use less watering, but we will see that it's also important to keep water. In particular, if we have dry conditions, and also to have good yield. So, in our network, we have in France more than 1,000 farmers who are dealing at professional scales, market gardening. And today I will only speak about yes, vegetable gardening at little scale, but it's also good to know that there is a big professional network who are using these techniques at professional level.
I think that's indeed, Vincent, that's very important to explain, because very often the image, the perception of very sustainable farming, organic, because this is obviously also organic farming. It's just that you're doing much more than just not putting chemicals. But the perception is often that it doesn't have good yields, and it's not sustainable economically for farmers. And what you have demonstrated in your network is that it is. You have plenty of farmers that are making a living, and you're also going to focus today on amateur farming in the good sense of just having your own vegetable garden. But the idea that it is not sustainable economically is false, and it works very well.
Yes. So, do you see my screen with Maraîchage Sol Vivant?
Yep.
Yes. So just to underline, so it's in French, but for people who are speaking French or people who want to translate, it's few demonstrations. So we have make 300 book about market gardening. So today it's only in French, and we have a big YouTube channel. You can look at that. There is a lot of things about agroecology in general. If you want to go deeper, I think that it can be important for you to have these links. And then I come back to my slides. So history of living soil is something not new to create really living soil, and something really old is the Terra Preta. Terra Preta is in Amazonia. You have really black soil, and today they are always here at little scale, at garden scale, where you have really high fertility rates. And when you are planting, even if kind of seed in this black soil, you have really good production. And when you are planting seed just near to this soil, but it's not black soil, it's normal soil in Amazonia, it's a yellow clayty soil, and you have not good production. And so we can see there that it's an interesting story about how to create a fertile soil. We have also in history a beautiful story about cities boundaries, where, for instance, in London and then also in Paris, and Paris was fully autonomous on vegetables 100 ago. 100 years ago, and yet Paris had 24 hours of autonomy. So a big change in the way to produce food directly linked with the city, and they used before a lot of manure from horses in the city, and they put a big quantity of manure into a really good demonstration how to have healthy soil. Then there is a lot of things about no-till, and maybe you know the history, and if you don't know, it's really important to know the history of the Dust Bowl. A Dust Bowl, it's a dramatic bowl where all the soil were lost by wind erosion. And to preserve wind erosion, they have beginning to start about no-till system at large scale, at crop, arable, cereals, so big scale, but they demonstrate the big benefits to do no-till the soil. And then we have new figures like Fukuoka, well known in permaculture world, but also we have Mark Bonfils for Emilia Haslip was demonstrate that it's possible to use straw mound to produce vegetables, and we will see that we are not only using straw, but any kind of materials, because we have understood the principle of the functionment of the nature, and we will use it in France. So that's why we have today a big network with Maraîchage Vivant, 100,000 farmers. Vers de ta production, we have already 13 millions of views on YouTube. So we are the first YouTube channel about agronomy, only agroecology, only living soil. And we have made a beautiful success stories about large-scale dissemination of all the content for all sectors. And I will present you some things also about that, because it's really important to understand that there are links between little scale and large scale production. So what are the fundamentals? Before what we see, it's we have fast everywhere, every place we have good biomass production. If we have not too much water, if we have not too much freeze, if we have not too much heat, we have always something like that, something with a lot of biomass if we do nothing. And nature is always producing lot of biomass through the forest systems or also grassland forest. And in this system, soil are really healthy, and we use them as a demonstrator that it's possible to have auto-fertile system. Auto-fertiles, what means? It means that it's grow itself. It's grow on its own. And we have no spreader, no chemicals in forest or grassland, and there are always healthy plants. And the question is how we can adapt or a really specific system with vegetable production or every kind of crop production, keeping all this auto-fertility, all this way to let go plants themselves, what is quite difficult as we see today. Because today, when we are speaking about agriculture, we have this kind of soil. We have mixed soil with water, with machinery, and with machinery, it can be also a spade, only a spade, that with manual spade to till the soil. And when you have a lot of water, you have this coffee structure. And we have find the recipe to destroy the soil thanks to the coffee recipe. It's the same. So you have structured soil with water and with machinery destruction, and then you lose. And we are losing tons of soil per hectare, decade after decade. And nature is never really till deeply, totally the soil. So we will keep in mind that it's what nature does is, okay, first we have the sun, we have the CO2, we have water, and we are producing photosynthesis, and we are producing plants. When then plants are dying, are letting a lot of sugar, a lot of leaves, a lot of roots directly into the soil. It's feed the pedofauna, and pedofauna will then feed the plants. And that is what we see in forest or in grassland areas. We have also an humus storage, humus or organic matter or carbon. We can say all these terms is quite synonyms. We have a healthy soil is a soil with a lot of carbon, lot of carbon to feed pedofauna and also to use when needed. When the plants are requiring some nutrients, they are taking additional nutrients in the soil, and the pedofauna is the strong actor to make the link between plants and soil content. So we have this circle of production. We are producing, then we are consuming, and then we recycle all. And soil is a recycle unit, and nothing is lost all is recycled. And today we have a big problem because we are not recycling water. Only 1% in France of the water is recycled, and we are recycling fast 0% of all the all the food who are going to the city. No waste are coming back to the garden, to the cropland. So there is a lot of actors in the soil. You have earthworm, you have mate, you have lot of roots, you have also fungi who are structuring the soils. For instance, glomalin, it's a secretion of fungi which is make a lot of like a glue in the soil to keep the soil really well structured and to keep the soil able to resist to big water rainfall. So we have all this life. We don't know everything about that, and we have a lot to discover. But what is sure is that soil is a house for all these inhabitants. And it's good to have a good house. You can have a good house, but if you have a good house with an empty refrigerator, an empty food reserve, you have nobody into the house, and the house will be destroyed by weather condition. So you have also to have always a food to feed the inhabitants, and the inhabitants were all these inhabitants, and also the plants through the roots. So you have to feed the inhabitants in order to keep the house in the good structure. And you cannot keep a good house if you are returning every year with a spade or with every kind of machinery, with a plow, for instance. You cannot have a good soil structure. You cannot have a good house. So you have to keep in mind that one plow, to make one plow just one time, if you use a plow or a spade, you are killing 90% of earthworms. And that is scientific, lot of scientific research has demonstrated that you are losing 90% of earthworm with only one plow in one time. So you can lose really fastly your soil structure and also your soil inhabitants, but you can also keep them by no-till system and by also providing them food. And the question is, what is the food eating? What does they eat? They eat, for instance, nitrogen, carbon, I don't know, phosphorus. What they are eating, they are mainly eating carbon things like us. We are all like our machinery, like our stomach. We are eating carbon. We are eating carbon, and nature, all the inhabitants of the soil are eating carbon with straw, with roots, with leaves, with every material created by the photosynthesis. Because photosynthesis is creation of carbon with CO2, and life is using this carbon structure, even kind of carbon, like sugar, like leaves, etc., like every kind of carbon structure, and that is the source of energy for the soil. And so you have to keep in mind that you have to nourish, you have to provide energy to the life of the soil if you want to keep all the services provided by the soil, all this auto-fertility, as nature is providing in grassland system or in forest system. And for that, we are speaking about carbon-nitrogen ratio. So maybe we will just look at after shortly. So you have to provide some really carbon materials, and the average number by the nature is 2 kilograms of dry matter per square meter. That's concretely it's 15 centimeter of hay or straw, or it's only 1 centimeter of wood chips, BRF in French, or 10 centimeters of crushed materials, crushed green manure, or struggled green manure. So we will look at that just after. And today we can use these techniques at field crops, and that is like that. We are producing big cover crop, for instance, this 5 meter high maize production, to let all this carbon, all this nourishment, go to the soil, go back to the soil in order to nourish a lot of actors. We can also making different kind of cover crop and direct seed into the cover crop, and we can also use permanent cover in association between, for instance, clover or alfalfa with I don't know, wheat or soybean. So that is sort of inspiration, and it's also to underline that what we are done at little scale is also doable at large scale. And it's the same for livestock. We have a lot of techniques to respect natural principles, what I have exposed to you for instance, for livestock production with rotational grazing, or self-sufficiency with protein, with this high protein production. Okay, and for orchards or for viticulture, we are also letting just the grass growing with a good comprehension at what are the good moments to destroy or not the grassland, and you have just to keep in mind that you have to let the grass growing and then cutting, going back to the soil, and that is a good way to have a good fertility. And it's the same for garden, to have an abundant production. So we are stopping digging, hoeing, hiling, we are mulching the soil, and we are nourish the system to naturally regulate paste, and then we can also adding fruit production. So that are some examples of what we can do at each scale. And let's speak yet about organic matters, because at little scale, it's really easy to regenerate fastly your soil based on the input of different organic matters. So that is a list of different organic matter. You see carbon nitrogen ratio. So when you want to feed the soil, you have to have a carbon nitrogen ratio above 20. So all these first materials are good, and the last one are poor to nourish the soil. They are nourishing the plant, but not the soil life. So it's important to have that in mind. So if there is a mistake, poultry manure, it's only between 5 until 10. And so it's low saturation ratio. Okay, so then I will be really concrete. How to prepare your soil, how to begin to have a good soil, how to start my garden, my vegetable garden. The first things to do is to assess if my soil is fertile or not. And to assess that is the simplest things is to let all the weeds growing themselves, doing nothing, and just to look at the height of this spontaneous grazing. If it's more than I will say 15 or 1 meter high at the good moment. So often in temperate region, the good moment is at the end of May or beginning of June. But in other regions, it's after rain season. and you are looking at how the soil is how the plants are growing themselves. And if you have only 20 centimeter, 70 centimeter high of spontaneous growing, that means that your soil is bad, is not auto-fertile. So you have to help the soil to regenerate. If the size of spontaneous grazing is high, you have fast nothing to do, and you can start really easily. You have a living soil because it's on itself. So you can start with that. You can start with that without doing anything. So it's really important to make this diagnostic. If you have not at the end of a growth season, you have to look at the color of the leaves, if it's a strong green or a yellow color. You have to look at the thickness of the leaves because it's really important, and also to look at the soil deepness because it's easy to see if you can dig only 5 centimeters or if you can dig 1 meter. It's not the same. It's not the same to have a soil a good soil deepness. It's 20 centimeters. It's enough to produce vegetable. But if you have only 2 centimeters and then you have a lot of rocks, you have to regenerate a soil. And it's the same in urban area. For your garden, if you are in city, you can create a soil from nothing with a beton, with I don't have the good word. Yes, with something really compacted, or like not a soil, nothing. You have no, and you can
concrete.
Concrete. If you are just concrete, thank you. You can also create a soil starting from nothing. It's also possible, and it's all the expertise we have in our network. Another really interesting things to look at as soil diagnostic, because it's important to know. It's this simple. So it's in French, but that you have just to look at the picture, and you can really evaluate your soil simply. Give a note if it's only fine aggregate 1 or a big aggregate 5 notes. So when you dig a soil, you can really simply estimate if your soil structure is good or bad, thanks to this photography. And then when you are compiling all of this information, so the grass growth, the structure, also maybe the history of the soil, if it's a grassland before or it was not a grassland, you can evaluate the potential of the soil. So, and the potential of the soil is here estimates based on only this really simple, affordable for everyone estimation. And that is enough for diagnostic. And then, based on our soil potential, we will have different strategy to regenerate or not the soil. We will regenerate the soil if we have low potential, and we just use the soil fertility as it is if we have an average or excellent potential of fertility in our soil. Okay, so take the case, we have a good soil, we have a good grass, spontaneous grass growth, and it's often the case when you have good grassland. Not all the grassland are good, but often grassland are not so bad. Because if you let them grow, you will see that it grows normally quite good. What you can do is to use TARP. So that is at professional scale, but you can have at your really little scale, use TARP. And TARP is used to kill grasses, to kill all the grasses, all the weeds, and to let room to produce vegetables, because there are always concurrency between grass and vegetable, and you cannot manage this concurrence at the beginning, at the earlier stage. You have to to make room for vegetables at the beginning. And the easier way to let room is to kill the weed with this kind of cover. So you can use tarp. You can so that are the costs for tarp in European context. You can ballast them. And then what is really nice is only 1 month after the coverage of the 1 month after the using this tarp, this plastic cover, you can easily plant directly, making smart little wool in your plastic tarp and plant directly in the tarp in order to have your first production. And that is something really magic. And all the agronomists say it's impossible, it doesn't work, but we have demonstrated with thousands of farmers that it's worked really nice. You use grassland, you put a tarp, you plant 1 month later directly in the tarp, and you have a good production for a lot of kind of vegetables like pumpkins, like tomatoes, cabbage, a lot of vegetables you are planting directly. So the holes must have the good size in order to not let place to the weed. And at the end, it is really nice. So at the end of this first growth season, you have a really well-prepared soil for any kind of other crops like carrots, all the crops you are seeding, all the vegetables you are seeding, like carrots, like spinach, for instance. Some people say, I don't want to use tarp, I don't want to use plastic. And what can be useful is cardboard, or cartoon board. Yeah, I don't maybe have the good translation here. GeoHemp is also possible, but it's really expensive, so I don't recommend it because it's really expensive. And you can also use big plant cover, but you be careful. It's hard to destroy. It's hard to produce if you are not an expert, and it's also hard to produce big biomass, and it's hard to destroy it without any regrowth of this cover crop. But it can be a possibility when you are an expert of cover crop, but it's not what I recommend, because when you are beginning a small vegetable garden, you are not an expert of any kind of plant normally. So it's really easier to use tarp or carton. What is a good translation for carton? Cardboard? I don't.
Yes, cardboard. Yeah, cardboard
is good. Cardboard, sorry. So cardboard is really nice, and you can make 1 or 2 or 3 layer of cardboard in order to have the same result as a tarp, a plastic tarp. So that is about beginning with yes, healthy soil. Maybe I can take some question at this stage if there are some question about beginning, but or I can go ahead.
I have a question, Vincent,
yes.
But if somebody else has a question, go ahead and speak up. And I'll also let Alexandra or Stéphane see if there are questions on the Facebook. And if they're in French, you can say it in French and I'll translate. But my question, Vincent, is when you're analyzing the soil, did you sometimes see a soil where you thought this is just a disaster? We need.
Yes, there is a lot of this.
Yeah. But all soil, according to you, in correct climatic conditions, can become fertile again. Yeah.
So you have to know that the majority of the soil and for all the arable crops lands are past desert today, are near to the desert, with really low content of biological activity in the soil. all the arable crops, all the cereal crops lands are really in bad situation. And so the majority, and in urban area, there is also few whereas there are some places where there is no intervention and maybe it's not so bad, but where there is no intervention, it can be pollution there. So you have to be careful about that. That's why I will explain how to start from the concrete, from a really bad soil just after. But that is today, what I've presented, it's only LC start with
Right.
LC soil.
Because sometimes in schools that participate in our projects, they worry about the pollution of the soil and of their vegetables because they're in urban areas with a lot of even air pollution, etc. But what you're also saying is that the soil, and when it is healthy, has the ability to depollute and to clean, if I may say so, plants and vegetables.
It takes time to depollute with the plants, but you can also just start with concrete or any place where there is not so much pollution, and just recreate a soil. So for that, I can go ahead. Or you are recreating a soil is to use carbon inputs. And when you have this kind of material, so there is different translation for that. We can use the term of green manure. So it's splitted green manure, cutted split green manure, and fresh, but fresh, not fully composted. And when it's not fully composted, there is in this manure, in this organic matter, a lot of carbon. And you can use, that's really nice, this material to just put on concrete or on really bad soil in a maybe 20 centimeter layer. It's the good quantity to let then go the plant into. So if you are making with this kind of organic matter a 20 centimeter layer of new soil based on these materials, and these materials are available fast in every kind of collection place near to the urban area where all the citizens are letting their green manure. You can use it, and the fresh just after cutting is the best. More fresh is the best is, and just after be cut it. So normally there is few big pieces of wood, only little, and you can use it. And what is nice is you can directly plant any kind of thing, any kind of vegetable in this organic matter. And this organic matter, because there is a lot of carbon, there is a lot of food for your soil life and for your plant for maybe 5 years or 10 years. So you have just to put this organic matter without any mix with sand or clay, or you just put it and plant it into. And that is a funny way to recreate a soil with low effort. So a soil with low potential or really bad potential like concrete, you can use 20 centimeters of crushed materials. Maybe you can also use hay or straw if there is not a concrete, but if you have soil, sorry, if you have soil, you can mix carbon like wood chips, 10 centimeters of wood chip or hay or straw, and you can mix with the soil, and that's an alternative way to use with say crushed materials or green manure. And you have only to do it once, to be this massive input of carbon on only once, and then you can use it for 5 or 10 days, 10 years, 10 years of for vegetable gardening. So if you have not a concrete behind because you have a bad soil, but you have a soil, you can make an integration, a mix with this input, and you can plant it directly if your carbon nitrogen ratio is between 20 and 30. And that is an important point, because if you are planting only in really carbon, like wood chips is really a lot of carbon and few nitrogen. If you plant it vegetables, you have a lack of nitrogen and you cannot have good vegetable. So if you are using wood chip, for instance, or straw, you have to mix with fresh organic matter, like fresh grass, or fresh manure, like poultry manure, for instance, and to make a good mix in order to have a good carbon nitrogen ratio. And then when you have this good ratio, and it's exactly the case with this organic matter, you have directly the good ratio. You have a mix between fresh things and woodly matters, and then you can directly mix with your soil if you can, and just after you can plant into. So it's better to mix if it's possible, but if you cannot mix because you have concrete behind, you just put these fresh materials and you are planting into. So it's also to say that you have to take care about the price, because you have not to pay too much. So often it's easy to have old straw or old hay donated by farmers. And in urban area, you have always this kind of materials available for little surface. It's really good, so you can use it, and only once input it's required. And then so that's enough. You have recreate your soil, and you can start to plant, and I will just after shortly present how to start. But often we have at this stage a lot of questions. Oh, what is my good mix? Oh, what I have to do? What is the way to answer to this question is we have a good agronomist in France called Lucien Segui. He's dead today, but he said, I ask nature a question and she answers me. And it's really important to know that all the answers are provided by the nature when you have questions. So what you can do if you are not sure how to regenerate your soil, you can make this kind of matrix, 2 meter per 2 meter matrix, with different vegetables, with different type of inputs, just a tarp, only straw with grass, for instance. It's example you can use and see where the plants are in good health, where they are happy to grow between the different modalities. And then nature can answer to your question. So it's a funny way to learn about nature, to make this kind of experiment matrix, but really at little scale, only 2 meter per 2 meter for one case. So it's not a big garden here, it's 8 meter per 6, to let know what's working or not working. But if you are following the rules I have provided to you, you will see that normally it's work fast always, but then you have also to look at the water, a little bit pest, and we will show just after. So that, and sometimes you want also to know what is the ideal organic matter mixture to bring back to life on the soil. And so you can make different mix with this. So for instance, you are planting squash everywhere. squash is really a good indicator of soil fertility. It is easy to implement with tarp, for instance, and you use straw, you use green manure, for instance, and you're using different input of nitrogen, like mowing, fresh grass or chicken manure or just nothing, and you let's see where it's go good, where it's go not good, and that is and then in 1 year you have the answer to all your questions with a few really few and you have the good answer adapted to your situation, your location, your environment, and that is really important. The best answer are not provided by a far neighbor, but by your own field. But once again, if you are following what I have presented just after, normally it's enough, and you will see it will work anytime. And then when I have presented all these things about what is a good soil, how to diagnose a good soil, how to regenerate my soil if necessary, then I can be really fast about how to sow, how to plant. And I will go really fast. So that is an example of a calendar in European context, but you have to use any kind of other calendar you want in other region with another seasonality. And there are, for instance, big differences in European context also between Mediterranean area and North area of Europe, for instance. But so please follow your own sowing calendar. But it's really important to plant vegetable at the good moment. And then, if you want to seed, you can have a loosened soil, so a bared soil. So for instance, you can remove a tarp and you have a really nice soil without any weed. And you have just to make a broadcast seeding, a direct seeding to roll it. Rolling is not mandatory, but it's better. You can also cover with a cover or not. It's not mandatory to cover. But it's better if you want to minimize weed management after, and then you can water if required, and just to harvest. So that is all rules for seeding operation. You can also use not little straw, but you can also use compost. You can push compost, let compost on your soil, or you can use also directly green manure, and then you are seeding directly in the compost, like here, and then you can roll or not. It depends of if you can or not. It's always better to roll, and you water, harvest, and that's it. In straw, if you have straw before, you can discard straw like here and put directly seed, and if you want compost or not additionally. And it's a good possibility to let all these seed vegetables growing into straw. You can also mulch after seeding. If you are a nacked soil, after you let the tarp away, you have seed directly on the soil without tillage, or with a really reduced tillage, just to let the seed go into the soil at the good days. And then you can straw after, when the vegetables are between 5 or 10 centimeters high, you can put straw on the weed who are growing. It's also a good solution to manage weed. We are using a lot of mulch and or tarp in order to avoid all the weed operation. So for to plant a lot of things. We have this calendar, but you have your own calendar. And what is important is how to plant. So we are planting a lot of things like tomatoes. We are not seeding directly tomatoes or salad or cabbage. We are planting them, and we are planting them in straw or in hay or in compost or in green manure. Even if all is good, when you have a good soil structure, because you regenerate your soil fastly with massive carbon inputs, or you have directly a good soil, you have just to plant. Just to plant. If you have weed with the tarp, you can plant directly in the tarp, or you can also remove the tarp, let mulch your area with straw, with hay, and to plant directly on, like here. And because there is a lot of hay or a lot of straw, there is few weed management after, and it's really good because you have really few works to do.
Yeah, this is something very interesting, Vincent, is that the soil becomes not just what we think of the soil as, is that it's also a lot of compost, it's a lot of straw or hay. It's pretty amazing how plants can grow out of what seems like very little soil from deep in the ground. And I think that's not very intuitive. It's a little bit counterintuitive that you're planting directly into the compost and the straw, like you said, and the plant is going to develop its roots anyway if the soil is in good health. That's very interesting to me. I was surprised that you can make things grow in what seems like not very much soil, classically.
Yes. We don't see the soil anymore because we protect it, and we are nourishing always. There is frequently, not every year you can nourish the soil, only 2 or 3 every years, but you can let a tarp during 1 or 2 or 3 years. And if you want to let a tarp longer, you have to remove it and to put organic matter in the soil, like wood chip, maybe 2 or 3 centimeters of wood chip after 3 years without any other operation. And this wood chip will nourish again the life of the soil, and then you can let the tarp and continue with the tarp. So it's just important to keep in mind. You have a soil ratio, you have a soil ration, a soil intake, and you have to feed it. It can be every year, it can be every 2 or 3 years, and then it's okay, you have nothing else to do. And that's really simpler for the vegetable gardening management, because you have just to plant and to seed, and you avoid a lot of weed time if you have these good practices. So when you are planting, please be careful about that. The top of the wood ball is the ground level. The top of you have really to make a good link between your plants and the soil. So you have really to put in the soil, and then that's the kind of results you can get. You have just planting one plant per quadrat meter, and you have a big production. If you start with, for instance, a good grassland area, or if you are pushing a lot of carbon before, you can have a really nice production without any effort. It's fast the same for all the bulbs, the tubers and large seeds, like like maize or like peas. It's a large seed, it's big seed, I will say. You can let the seeds, you can start with the clear soil. So you remove straw, you begin just after a tarp, you remove the tarp. You are putting these bulbs, these tubers, or this large seed in directly on the soil with a good contact with the soil. So you can plant a few. For instance, the potatoes is only planted in order that the top of the potatoes is covered by soil, but it's not more than 1 or 2 millimeter of soil on the top of the potato, and just you have to cover with any kind of materials. It can be a tarp, it can be also a straw, compost, hay, whatever. When you have, you can use whatever. You can also use tarp with a lot of wall, near wall. You can use straw, you can use what you want, and it gives directly the production with that. When it's, for instance, bulbs, 20 centimeters of straw, it's manageable for the bulbs. They can go through the straw and find the sun, and go to go ahead to go to go to the sun itself. So it's really nice to see that they are able to go through the straw itself or through the hay. And with potatoes can go through 40 centimeters of straw. So it's you can let a lot of straw if you want, because more you let straw, more you are letting energy to the life of the to the soil life, and you are also avoid any weed operation. So that is example. You are putting a potato. It's better when you are a good contact with the soil. So if there are a little more planted in the soil, but just few, in order to have a good contact with soil moisture, and then you are pushing a big layer of straw or hay, whatever. Straw or hay is the same. That is operation with leeks. Leeks are really special plants, so we are just making wool, and through the mulch, and we are planting little leeks plants in the soil. What is also important is perennials, because perennials are easy to manage. So there is a big list of perennials. You have a lot of vegetable plants, for instance. You have a lot of aromatics, but you have also, small fruits or fruit trees like perennials. And the question is how to plant them respecting soil fertility. So we have a simple recipe for planting perennials, any kind of perennials. They can be vegetable, aromatic, small fruits, or fruit trees. You have first to put layer 6 months before. 6 months before, you are putting a lot of organic matter, like at minimum 40 centimeters, and at 1 meter large, and you are putting materials, and then when you do it 6 months before the plantation, you have just to plant in the material. And when you have put a good layer, the layer of any kind of materials, it can be straw, always the same, green manure, compost, hay, etc. It will destroy and prepare your soil, even if the soil is poor. And then you have just to plant, and you will see good, successful plantation. If you have really more vegetable or aromatic production, I recommend you to use tarp in addition of this organic matter, tarp or cardboard, in order to manage weed for the next 3 or 5 years without any weed management. So it's really simple, basic. 6 months after, you put organic matter, and then you plant. And if you can plant in a tarp in order to avoid any kind of weed for the 3 or 5 next years. So and then you can be safe. You have nothing to do about weed. And there is a problem with so that was a recipe what I presented about plantation of perennials. And about weeding, it's really hard to find, a market gardener use 30% of his time to weed. and if you want not to weed, you have to manage well the tarp. You have also to manage well the crop density, the mulch thicknesses, the background management, and you have also to manage perennials. Perennials, I don't have the good words like Rumex optafoliusa in Latin. So you have a lot of perennials like I don't have the good word ortie, chardon, different. Sorry, you have different perennials as weed, and that they are hard to manage. Liseron also is really hard to manage if you are not using tarp. So please use tarp to manage perennials like grassland, but also new perennials who are coming. And you have to keep in mind that to destroy perennials weed, you need 6 months of good weather. We say six months of summer with summertime to destroy this kind of perennials, because it's really hard to destroy them, and you can destroy them with using a tarp. As I say at the beginning, you begin when you have bad perennials weed in your vegetable garden. You put a tarp, you plant directly also in the tarp with wall every meter, not to near meter, because it's let room to the perennials to go into the tarp, to go through the tarp. But then you can manage it without take too much time. And then, yes, I have time to go. So about pest management, first of all, we have all literacy, which is demonstrating that when you have well-nourished plant, you have healthy plant able to manage itself pests. And then you have also to create a balanced ecosystem with grass strips, with hedges, and you have to understand and respond to the need of the pests, like different kind of pests there, and maybe agree to leave a reasonable share of loss of production, but maybe not more rather than 10%. But you have also to react if urgent. And maybe two big problems we have are slugs and wolves in our systems. So to manage slugs, you can push fresh shredded materials like fresh grass, and they prefer to eat grass rather than your little vegetables. So it can be possible. You can also plant in more in compost, because slugs doesn't like compost. And you can also use orthophosphate. It's pheramol. It's authorized in organic system. If you have too much slugs, and if you spend too much time to manage slugs with the other possibility.
What about? I'm sorry. What about? I heard that salt is good for to get rid of slugs. Salt.
What do you mean?
Salt. That if you put salt around, that
yes.
slugs don't like it.
Yes, I think it's okay, but prefer you have not to put too much salt in your soil. But there is a lot of different other possibilities at really little scale. But the better we have, it's to use more compost when for the sensitive periods, or shredded materials near to, so like green grasses.
Okay, thank you.
And wolves are also really hard to manage because they love no-till soil. So you can implement predators with a lot of things. At little scale, you can use ants. So 1 ant per quadrat meter is during 2 weeks are keeping away all those wolves during 1 or 2 years. So it's really nice. A fox is hitting 100 volts per day. So it's really also a good manager. And when you have cats are also really effective to let not develop too much all the voles into the soil. But voles are really good for the soil. They are creating a lot of galleries, which is good for the aeration of the soil and for the soil structure also. But you have just to manage them in order to not let them ecosystem with a lot of snakes, a lot of eagles, etc. You can have a good equilibrium and a good balance. And we see this balance, nature balance in all our farm network. So at my last minutes, I will just present you different picture to visit remotely different garden, because I think it's really important to see how it can figure out. So that is an example of for instance, a concrete soil. You start with nothing, you have no soil, you are just recreating soil with 30 centimeters here of green manure, and then you plant it, and it's okay, it's healthy, it's good, it's good. Richard Perkins, it's also a good expert inspiring people with an English YouTube channel. So please look at its YouTube channel, Richard Perkins. It's a Swedish guy who are pushing a lot of English videos at professional scale, but it's really inspiring. It's follow all these recipes. That is an example on our network of a guy called Pierre Bess, who are using also the nice edges of vegetables with sunflower or with beans. It's really nice to see that. There is a lot of permaculture garden you can look at because people are just following these rules, but the difference is we have, with our work, define the rules, what are the good nutrition for the soil, as I present to you, and yet we well understand why these vegetables are so healthy. You have incredible edible movement who are demonstrating that it's also possible to manage soil in every place. So sorry for the bad quality. That is other picture about squash, about cabbage without weed. You have no weed operation, you have few weed. You see that is a straw area with no weed operation, and at the end of the cultures there is really few weed. Without any weed operation during the life of the vegetable. That is for Jerusalem artichokes. That is, for instance, production in greenhouses. So you can use tarp, you can use hay, you can use straw. You can also have a lot of production in winter season using this strategy. So you see that there is a lot of different vegetables. You have, I don't have all the English words, but you have salads, you have spinach, you have celeries, you have onions, you have fresh grass. So you can do it for a lot of things. You have also a good video here. I promote some video at the end, like this video. So that is in French, but you can also use automatic subtitling in YouTube in any language, and you can just look at the big picture as a funny picture. Okay. We have also a good guy who have make some videos in French, which is called Saltner, on the just good picture you can see other example of soil without any tillage. So that is not for French text, but it's only for picture to you. I will share with you. And that are also another list of French YouTube channels I have done. For English YouTube channel, please look at Richard Perkins and also at Charles Dowing. Charles Dowing, it's an English vegetable gardener who is following all these principles. So Charles Dowing. And that's it for my side. So thank you very much for your attention. And I will let you the floor to ask all the questions you want for this really funny living style vegetable gardening systems.
Thank you so much, Vincent. Thank you very much for the quality of that presentation and both the links, the resources that you mentioned, the photographs, in addition to the explanation. If you have any questions, please speak up. I have a first question, which is, you gave a presentation today which went into technical detail, but you also made it very accessible. Do you think that it's very reasonable? Is it possible for schools where there aren't any technical competencies to start with to create a living soil and to produce vegetables in a considerable quantity? Just a question about how accessible it is to learn how to do this and to encourage people to.
Yes, so what is, this, yes, I don't speak about that, but for instance, Marie Choka, so it's really a citizen, but she's passionate about vegetable gardening, and she has written a book, and during 1 year, she has recorded all the operation, all the time spent in his own garden, and all the production provided by his own garden. So she's counting that she can nourish its family. It's with I think 5 kids family, so 7 people family with this garden for all the vegetable necessity. So they are eating a lot of vegetables, and with only 120 square meter, she can produce all the food necessary for one family. So I think it's good to know, okay, circa 100 square meter is a good area to produce for one family, and she spent in average 3 hours of his time per week. So there are for sure more work during the summer season rather than the winter season, but in average is 3 hours per week to have this family garden. And I think it's a reasonable area for schools. It's nice to have this kind of area and time. So if you have only 30 minutes per week, maybe it's not possible. If you have not a motivation, it's not possible. If you have not regenerate your soil, it will be hard. But for school, what is good is if you have only 30 minutes per week, maybe it can be the case for kind of professor, or I don't know. But maybe they just can look at 20 square meter and only make one plantation. When you are planting tomatoes, it can be outdoor or indoor. You have just to put a tarp 1 month after planting the tarp, and then just harvest. And if you cannot harvest, it's not a problem. You just will not have the fruit of your production. But you can also use the simplest vegetables to manage, and all what is about plantation, direct plantation, instead of seeding. So implementation, it's really easy to manage, and it's easy to beginning with that. So that's why I focus also about perennials, because perennials is really nice with the students, with the kids, because you are planting once a time, and then you have a good production of strawberries or of any kind of berries for several years, if you are following the good rules. That's why it's really nice. Start with perennials.
Excellent, excellent. Don't hesitate if anybody has any other questions. Do you feel that it is a combination of ancestral know-how, things we knew how to do before mechanization or heavy mechanization, and also new knowledge? Because it seems like there's a combination of knowing what, you know, grandparents, great-grandparents did with their soil, but also new techniques that maybe would surprise them, which is planting directly into straw, etc.
Yes, yes, for sure. Our grandparents take a lot of time to till and to weed, and yet we avoid it. But maybe you have some grandparents, and sometimes we hear about that on people who themselves following these rules, these principles, without any, it's, you know, self-knowledge. So you can call it ancestral if you want. And for sure that in the past, you have people who have reduced their time to till, but it's not so well documented, this no-till production 100 years ago or 200 years ago. There is few documentation about that. They all are discussing about tillage system, because tillage is the simplest way to weed. And today we have alternative to weed with till systems, with tarp, with cardboards, and also with massive inputs of straw, because it's not so easy 200 ago to have a lot of amount of green manure or a lot of amount of hay or straw was really expensive. It takes a lot of time to collect. But finally, when you are just look a little bit, just collecting a lot of hay in a small area, it's manageable and you can do it. And we can also just let tarp go one place after one place on the grassland. And that is another way to have a kind of garden without any kind of inputs. Just letting the grass growing on the place and planting in the tarp 1 year. Next year, sowing on the place where the tarp was last year, removing it and have a bare soil, and just planting with bare soil, next soil during 1 year. And then during the growing season, you let spontaneous grass coming back, and you let produce your carbon inputs directly on site, on the place. And it's another possibility for person who doesn't have massive carbon inputs and have not good soil, to let regenerate the soil itself. So we can also speak about that. It's really a good alternative.
Yes, I also have a question, maybe more on in the field of, do people always come to you for help, or do you also need to go to convince people that this kind of working with soil is better, with a better return, better for us, for the environment? And how do you motivate people to change their ways?
What we have motivated a lot of people with YouTube video explaining all we are doing, give access of the understanding of the importance of earthworm, the importance of autofertility, importance of fungi, bacteria, but also YouTube is a good way to, you know, promote existing system, not theoretical aspects, but farm portrait. And we have a lot of farm portrait on YouTube, and that is the best demonstration we can have. And we have added to this YouTube portrait all the economic numbers to demonstrate that people are earning their income thanks to that. And we have made a 300 page book with 30 farm portraits with all the numbers, all the things about economic, environmental, social aspects, and you can go to look at that, and that is a way to demonstrate that it's feasible and it's not only a theory, it's practical and it's professional and it can work at every scale.
Okay.
And maybe
Okay,
tomorrow
yes. Thank
the
you.
Vegetable Gardening Cup will collect new success stories and will help to make visible new lot of systems in every kind of condition, every kind of place in the world, using this kind of little video.
Yes, good idea. I will note it down. Thank you.
Vincent, what is your opinion on how institutions in the farm sector, public institutions, are taking into account living soil techniques? I know you have more than 100,000 farmers that participate in your training, so I'm assuming you feel confident in how farmers are integrating these techniques. Do you feel that it is very well known with regards to training institutions, public ones, the ministry? Do you find that there's progress over the last few years?
Yeah, so because of YouTube, fast everybody become aware. Not everybody, but it's a better tool to disseminate awareness and consciousness about that is possible. So that is our best tool, and we have to push new and new farm portraits in order to make an accumulation of demonstration in a lot of context, a lot of production sector, and it's what we are doing yet. For each sector, so we are continue for that, and it's compilation of all these farm portraits is our best demonstration for institution, for instance. And what is also funny is today that all the institutions are answering research institute and development institute for agroecology. Agroecology is the new magic word, in all new research projects where the institute or the are funding for, you know. So because agroecology is all yet really well recognized, and because we are fully agroecology with living soil agroecology, we are calling it living soil agroecology from our side, what we are doing. We know that there is already a good awareness about the importance to do it differently. And there are not only one way to do it differently, there are a lot of ways. And today, what is matter, it's for me just to continue this documentation process, which is also a kind of scientific process to accumulate data about how it's managed, what are the results in terms of biodiversity, in terms of water quality, in terms of soil quality, in terms of nutritional content of the food. There is a lot of questions with no answer today because there is no scientific work well structured with an holistic approach, which is required for agriculture sector. So we are working on that, and the good news is all institutions are asking for that, but maybe there are a lot of work to do in the next year in order to help and to make better synchronization and better, more synchronized work between all the actors of agricultural sector, but not only agriculture, because I'm sure that it's really important to work with cities about how to re-green cities. And we have also a funny project about how make big building green, because we can use plants to recycle all the organic matter provided by the building inhabitants and to reuse it locally, to let grow, liana like vineyard or like kiwis directly on the building.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, this subject of sustainable cities is also one that we work on It is
Yeah,
something
sure.
that we can contribute to because the vegetable garden cup works pretty well in cities in the sense that very often it is a way for people who live in urban areas to reconnect a little bit with nature. So
Yeah, sure.
we're very happy to keep discussing that issue and more broadly to work together with Ver de Terre production with you, Vincent. It was a pleasure to listen to you and to see what you had to transmit today. I am very happy for the participants of the Vegetable Garden World Cup to be able to watch this video. Thank you also for being so accessible in the language, in the explanation, so that not only did you take things that are useful for professionals, but you made them very clear for those that are in the realm of education. So that was very useful for us. And I look forward to working with Ver de Terre Production and Maraîchage sur Sol Vivant, and you, Vincent, in the next months. And it was very fun to learn about everything living soil in vegetable gardens today. So if you have a last word, go ahead, Vincent, and then we're going to close this training session.
Yeah, but my last word is also please make it visible that it's possible at your scale. It can be at your urban scale. It can be only on your balcony if you have only that, or directly in the street, like Incredible Edible have done to let demonstrate that it's feasible to replace nature at the earth of our lives.
That's a very good way to send us off, because making nature accessible and making it so that we see the results on a day-to-day basis, which implies putting, a little bit of time into it. But you gave a lot of explanations as to how you can reduce the amount of time that you actually devote to maintenance, whether it be by using straw, tarping, covering the soil around the plants that you're cultivating. These are things that save a lot of time. We do it in our own farm here in the center of France. We've gotten better and better at it, and we save time, which is precious. So it is, once again, very clear that having a vegetable garden is an ability for everyone, even if you're in a very, very artificial area with regards to soil. You can create soil, and we talked about that today with you, Vincent. And I'm going to repeat what I said in the beginning, which is learning where your food comes from, and even learning how to produce a little bit of food, just a little bit, is as important as knowing how to read, count, write, and do everything else that we consider essential as a citizen, as a global citizen. And so I want to leave you with that, is that we need to reconnect with health, with the planet, but it is at this small scale of a vegetable garden that we can do so. And if you want to become a farmer, we very much encourage that as well, because we need farmers and we need to support farmers, such as the farmer that you are, Vincent, and many others. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to this sequence of the Vegetable Garden World Cup. We will see you soon in the vegetable garden. For those of you participating in the National French Vegetable Garden Cup, à très bientôt dans le potager. Tuning out, Henry Landis, president of Landestini, thanking Vincent Levavasseur, thanking Alexandra, Cédric, Stéphane, and Margot of the World Vegetable Garden team. Thank you, Olivia, for the national one. And I also see who tuned in. Thank you for everything you've been doing on this project. Thank you to all the participants in all of the Vegetable Garden Cups. And see you soon in the Vegetable Garden. À bientôt dans le potager. And we can stop the recording and we can stop the live.